Right, I has pressed the button. So I think we are live. So I will let a few people join us for a few minutes. I'm going to turn off that view. So allegedly we're live on Facebook. If you're all there, hello everyone joining us on the Talented People page. Happy Friday. Thank goodness it's nearly the weekend. It's been a big week, hasn't it, everyone? So I will just keep an eye on you guys. Please say hello in the comments when you're joining us. It'd be lovely to see who's watching. And welcome to another Talented People session. It's so good to have everybody here. We've been loving them over the last few weeks, and thank you for your emails and support in them all. You know, we're all busy in our own ways, and putting these sessions on is no mean feat every week, but we have loved it and they're so important and we really enjoy hearing your feedback. So thank you. And do suggest other sessions, by the way. I've had some emails recently from freelancers suggesting other things, and we would love your input on what we do next. After all, this is for you. This is for our community. So while some more people join, I'll tell you a bit about Talented People and what we do, just in case, you know, you've been on another planet and you don't know us. We are a staffing company. We work with TV production companies and content producers to find them the most creative and talented people for their projects, whether they're short term or permanent or production management, development, creative, all sorts really. And Rosie and I, who run it, have worked in TV for a very long time. Actually, I was working it out the other day, and depressingly, I'll be coming up to my adult 18th birthday of working in telly soon. Wow. I was a director before moving across into talent. But yeah, we've been running these live sessions since the beginning of coronavirus crisis to keep our wonderful community of freelancers and clients feel connected into the industry in a time of such uncertainty, let's be frank. And we've done, what have we done? We've done making of sessions, which have been super popular, about different programs and series. We've done some more practical chats about how things work and how roles are done in TV, as well as really interesting chats with leaders of the industry and inspiring freelancers about their work. And so these last couple of weeks have held particular importance, obviously, with the events in America, here in UK and worldwide, and the Black Lives Matter movement and all the protests, and all of this against an incredibly sensitive and worrying backdrop of COVID-19 and all its personal and professional challenges that I've spoken to so many of you all about over these last few weeks. So it's been and still is a really pretty awful time for many. So what can I say? At Talented People, we really care about our community. And I think you all know that. And I think you hopefully feel that from our dealings with you. We're super proud of you guys. You know, you mean everything to us, because ultimately we put you guys forward to jobs. And, you know, we talk to you a lot. We write lots of things for you. We do these sessions. We're communicators, you know, people are our business. And so when the Black Lives Matter sparks talks that are very overdue and angry conversations about racism in TV and the cultural divide and the ignorance of so many and some terrible experiences that have gone unsaid, we won't ignore that. We can't ignore that. So as a white woman running a TV staffing company, in a position of a certain degree of influence over hiring managers and production companies, but definite influence over how we find talent and how we put the right people forward to the right jobs, it's not necessarily the most comfortable place to be right now. And I'm happy to say that. You know, I think that's okay. You know, I feel that this conversation is more important than my own feelings or concern about how the session like this might come across. It's just too important. And I think after so many conversations I've had in the last week with people from underrepresented groups and people who are new to us, already known to us, Rosie and I decided the best thing we could do today is use this platform to let people tell their stories and share their experiences. And that beyond this, it won't be all talk. You know, Talented People will be taking positive action. We already are, but we need to do more. And, you know, our intentions are clear and good. And so whilst this momentum is here and, you know, the discussion is being had and the conversations are open, you know, we really want to bring you this session about being Black in TV, and hopefully it galvanizes too. So these guys, who I'll introduce shortly, are all amazing and have bold and brave and brilliant to come on and talk to us. They're going to answer your questions, so please do support them in the comments or ask away. This is an absolutely safe space. We may hear difficult stories or positive things too, but I think there's a lot of confusion and worry about what can or can't be said, and I want this to be a safe space for you guys to ask whatever you like, and feel that you can. And I know that feeling, and I feel in good hands here that these guys are really willing to share and make change and tell us how, and so that we can learn how to move forward with all of this. So please ask away in the questions. So give a massive hello to everybody. I'm going to start with Chitsi. Hi, Chitsi. This is Chitsi Karangwa.
Hi.
Chitsi is an AP and a producer, predominantly in development these days, working across factual and factent. And I love this on your CV, Chitsi. She states that wearing clashing prints is part of her makeup. She wears them with aplomb, which is awesome. And not so clashing today. No,
I thought I'd keep it simple, but I am wearing my signature blue lipstick though, so I've kept it on.
Love it. And we've worked together in the past on various things for Channel 4 in the same building anyway, and I can certainly say she lights up the room and wears her culture on her sleeve very proudly. And Yemi Oyefua. Hi, Yemi.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for joining us. I'm good. Yemi's a casting producer across factual entertainment shows predominantly, but most recently produced season 2 of CBBC's Step Up to the Plate, but she's also an emerging scriptwriter. I've been hearing a lot about that, and has had a few development efforts with the BBC, more recently with Netflix on a script called 6 Foot Something. So that's awesome to hear. We hope that goes further. The very lovely Kavina Wood Ando. Hi, Kavina.
Hey, hi, you're right.
Kavina's been working in TV for about 5 years now, and he specialises mainly in obs docs and factent, and has cast lots of series you would have heard of, like Born Famous, Rich Kids Go Homeless, Rich Kids Skint Holiday, and is infamous for his very good nature and lols. He wrote that.
Yeah.
And welcome to CJ. Hi, CJ Henry.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hello. CJ's a TV and branded social media producer who can also shoot. So jack of many trades, with an extensive casting background. He's worked on shows like Glow Up, First Dates, Married at First Sight, Naked Attraction, big ones. And recently with his branded content has worked with companies like United, American Airlines, and lots of others. So thank you all for being here. I know it's been an exhausting and emotional time of late, so I really appreciate it. Kitsy, should come to you first. Do you want to tell me tell us all a bit about you and how you're feeling right now, and anything that you want to share in terms of your experiences of being Black or in an underrepresented group in TV?
Well, how am I feeling today? Great, bit nervous, excited, hope everyone enjoys it. In general, I think it's been an exhausting time, or I know that, well, for myself and other Black people, it's been like a triggering time, and also just in general for people of colour, because what happens when people are talking about Black Lives Matter, or people are like, why is everyone protesting in Britain? Like, we're lovely, we don't have these problems. It's like, actually, it brings up all the things that you remember having happened to you, whether it's in society, but also at work, I've got my hair out quite a lot at the moment. And part of the reason is because of lockdown and not having to go into the office, I don't have to worry about people touching my hair. We laugh, but it's true, because that has definitely happened at work before. Like, an exec came up behind me while I was sitting there doing my work, and he just full on put his fingers in my hair. And it was sort of like, what are you doing? And in the moment of me being like shocked, like, what are you doing? Luckily, one of the rarer times where there's actually another Black person in the team, the other girl was like, that is inappropriate, you don't do that to Black women. And he was so shocked, like, that this could be an inappropriate thing, until I was like, well, how many white people's hair have you touched today? And he was like, nobody. And I was like, would you ever go up to them and touch it? And he was like, no, I wouldn't. And I was like, why? He was like, well, because it'd be inappropriate. And I'm like, so why did you think it was okay to touch my hair? He was like, because it looked really fluffy. And it was like, well, I'm not a dog. So, you have all those things, and it sort of talking about Black Lives Matter and people on TV kind of not really being aware of these things, like it really like brings up all these memories. And I think it's important that we're having this conversation, but I hope it actually changes it, because I think in TV we generally think of ourselves as being like these liberal, open-minded people, and you know, sort of we're like woke and like we know loads about stuff and we're like really appropriate, but actually very often people are still closed-minded. People still like stereotypes, they still believe in them, whether it's in casting or in like editing or in development. When it comes to like the stories that they're looking for, people don't often question like why they're looking for that particular story. Why are you looking for a you know, really loud black woman, for example? Why can't you have like a really clever black family? What does that make you feel uncomfortable? You want them to be like church going instead. I think those are all things that people should start sort of thinking about.
And going back to that situation you're in with your boss who touched your hair, your colleague called him out. Would you feel like that was the right thing for her to do? And if she hadn't, would you have said something, do you think?
Yeah, I think I was just like, you know, when you're sort of in shock. And I think that's what often happens is like, I find when people do things that aren't necessarily like microaggressions, but that might be counted as a microaggression, that it always takes you back, because you need to like have a few moments to kind of readjust to like what's just happened. And then there's a burden on you as a black person to explain it to the white person why it's inappropriate. So then there's like two layers of like stress, because I often get annoyed, not even gonna lie about it, about having to explain things, because I'm like, well, you've done something inappropriate, it shouldn't be on me to have to explain it to you. And so yeah, I've definitely over time got more and more comfortable with calling people out and explaining things. And it always helps if there's somebody else who's an ally, whether or not they're like a black person or a white person. And like more and more I find that there are those allies who would be like, no, that's inappropriate, or like, actually I'm with Chitsy on this one, like, you know, blah blah blah. Sometimes it helps those situations, because I think what normally happens is that if you point something like that out, people are so afraid that you're calling them racist that they sort of like panic and go into defense mode. And it's called white fragility, like the kind of like fear of like you're saying that they're a bad person. But actually, like, you should take a breath, just sort of like listen to what the other person is saying, and then be like, oh, actually, like that was not the right thing to do. But yeah, it can be quite hard when you have to tackle that kind of defensiveness. And sometimes what you have is kind of like a racial gaslighting, which is someone explaining to you that they didn't mean it that way, or, you know, like you've taken it the wrong way. And,
yeah,
you know,
and then you're in a vicious circle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're like, actually, that, like, it made an impact. It didn't make me feel good. It's not on me. Like, maybe you should go and educate yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And Yemi, you're nodding along here. Can you relate to that?
And because I think it also adds that third step, which you're faced with every day, because you can't get angry then as well. And you're stuck to not even being able to react the true way you would react if someone, you know, whether you know them or not, someone comes to touch you, your hair, saying something inappropriate. And yeah, it's just, yeah, sorry. That even you just saying that brought back just times where you're just thinking, what do I say? And how do I say it? And in that moment, they've moved on. And so then calling them out, you know, being like, oh, actually, last week, now that I've been able to formulate the words where I'm not just cussing you and just, you know, blimmin' and blimmin' left, right and center. And then they're thinking, oh yeah, but like we went to the pub the other day and we did that and you didn't say anything then. And I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't the time, it was an inappropriate time. And now I'm telling you. And then they start explaining why, you know, their black friends don't have a problem when they do it, or, you know, they've seen it here, there and the other. And it's just, it's exhausting, quite frankly, I think. And even just, again, talking about it all the time, it's interesting, you know, and I've watched a few sessions, but even just scrolling through, you know, you can ask how many black people have been included in the sessions when we're not talking about, you know, the injustices that we face or the things that have happened, when we're just talking about editing or the shows we produce or what we want to do. And we don't get that. And so all you do see is kind of racial injustice. And so people who are like, oh yeah, I watched that doc, and I saw that thing, and yet I'm still being explained that, of course they're going to get defensive. So what do? It's like a cat. You just can't, it's almost like you just can't win, because we can't just continue to explain. Yeah.
And how, Yemi, how, you said you found this sort of triggering as well, and you've obviously been talking about it a lot, including with, you know, me and others, and watching all these sessions. How do you feel, what do you feel like the next steps need to be now? Like, you were almost at the point where you need to park it and then to see change, or you know, tell me what you kind of want to be happening right now.
I do feel like it's an actions over words type of thing at the moment, and I do think, you know, nothing's going to happen overnight. That's obvious. You know, no sane person expects that. And so the expectation that some people are like, well, nothing's going to change overnight. It's like, duh, we know that. We've been fighting for this for 20 years. And so for some people just coming through this enlightenment of like what's happening behind the scenes, it's like, okay, now I just feel like a broken record, because remember that time last year when I said this, or remember that conversation, you know, 2 weeks ago when I said this, were you not hearing it? Or why is it the protests? Why didn't you listen to me or listen to that doc that you watched? And for me, it's at the top, because I found, yeah, I have allies, definitely, you know, and I've worked with amazing people who, even through casting, through even just standing up for those injustices, but it's also at what level. It's not an exec saying it, it's not the commissioner saying it, it's a researcher or an AP or, you know, a producer in your level. It's no one that actually can influence the change.
Yes, and actually that's something I definitely want to come back to and explore further, is the ceiling, this sort of glass ceiling we talk about, and, you know, the seniority, and that's sort of something that we see, you know, a lot of and struggle with as a staffing company, you know, up top, where are the senior people? Kabina, let me come to you though, so we just hear from everybody to start with. Tell me a bit about you and how you're feeling about everything right now.
Yeah, I'm an assistant producer, and how I'm feeling right now, I feel quite emotionally drained and triggered with everything, because it's inspiring how, like, this is the biggest civil acts movement that's happened, but like, I think on the other side, that's been a good thing, but the other bit is the triggers. And I started to realize a lot of stuff I didn't know. I experienced a lot of racism in this industry, but I didn't know it actually affected me as much as it does until this started happening. And I feel like, is that what Chitsy and Yemi was saying? It has to start from the top, and that's the only way how things is going to change, and it's not going to happen overnight. Racism, this whole thing is a marathon at the end of the day. And I feel, even when it comes to allies, right, I think to be an ally, you have to be anti-racist. That is, even if you hear somebody saying something racist to, like, your fellow Black person, you need to be able to call that out, because your silence is violence at the end of the day. And I think change is not going to happen. Is that what I was saying? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think just people just need to just take on board on what's going on, especially, of course, white people need to just understand. And yeah.
And I mean, I know you found it particularly draining, haven't you, Kabina? You know, you told me a couple of stories that were, like you say, you didn't notice at the time necessarily, or you didn't have the courage to say anything at the time.
Yeah, I didn't have the courage at the time. So there's been times where I've been like racially profiled, or actually when an exec, when I was a runner one time, I was working on the show and the exec couldn't be bothered to say Kobina, and Kobina is 3 syllables. You cannot. And then he was like, oh, I'm just going to call you Kobe from now on. And at that time, I was intimidated that if I went and I was so early in my career, if I went and said anything, it's either they were going to make my life a misery or get me fired from the job. I was scared to speak up. And there's been other instances within like where I've been racially profiled, where I worked on the show as a researcher, and I had access to a credit card, and there was other people in production who had access to the card. They were all white, and there was a transaction where nobody knew where it came from, and automatically I was they asked me, do I know anything about it? And I said, no, I don't. And it got to a point where they kept asking me, they wasn't believing me, to a point where it actually felt like they thought I had stolen, it was me who did the transaction, and I wasn't being honest. So cut long story short, the PM asked me to bring out my bank statements, and I didn't want to do that because that's an invasion of privacy at that moment. And then it was either I show that I didn't show all the proof I have that I didn't make this transaction, or probably get fired and be blacklisted and never get a job. And I had to do what I had to do, where I had to show the bank statements, which for me, I feel so upset. And it was just that whole thing where, like, why is it that I'm the only black person, and I've told you on many occasions that I didn't do the transaction, but you believe that all the other white people, but why is it me that I'm having to prove myself? And it goes into even what I've experienced in this industry, where I've known from a very young age, I am not the same as a white person. My dad told me this, like, you have to work twice as hard as a black person, as a white person. And even when you are doing that, it's still not good enough. It's mentally and exhausting and draining, and especially lead to be racially profiled. It's and just going through all those sort of racial microaggressions, it's difficult. And I think it does play a part within mental health as well. So
of course,
yeah,
thanks. And that's really hard to hear, Kabina. Thank you for sharing. And there's a lot of people who are saying that is crazy and unbelievable in the comments here. So appreciate you sharing. And that's something that, yeah, it's difficult to hear. Yeah. But I feel I want to hear from CJ now. CJ, you well, tell us a bit about you and how you're feeling hearing these stories from the others.
For myself, collectively, I'm emotionally drained, I feel. And I think the first part for me, I'll start with, like, I'm a big social media person. Like, if anyone knows me, I love social media. I love being creative, video, like, that is who I am. I love it. It's part of my job, even finding jobs for TV. It's social media is something that we all use. And obviously what has happened has been devastating with George Floyd. But for me, I noticed I had to switch off. I had to switch off from social media because I was seeing things from people that I thought were friends of mine saying certain things. I was seeing things from people who aren't friends. There was so much going around, and it got to the point where I physically and emotionally felt so drained in watching, seeing, hearing what people were saying. And when I know that it becomes more of an emotional thing, it becomes like physical, I actually feel sick about what I've read and saw. I know that it's an issue. Now, kind of going into how I feel about it within the industry and different things, I feel that, like Yemi was saying, is that first and foremost, it's not just words, it's action. I think we definitely need to take action on what's happening and happened and been happening. This isn't something that's just happened. And I think a lot of people are thinking that because of what has happened with George Floyd, that everyone's kind of reacting to that. Well, actually, that was just the icing on the cake of what's happened. And this has been happening for a long time. And people not knowing is almost an issue. It is the issue, but it's also deeper than that as well. I've had various different experiences, and a lot of the time I feel like I've always been told, don't say anything, shut up, don't, like, just leave it, it's forgotten about, don't say anything. And you feel like you can't say anything because you're going to be seen as the person that's the angry black guy. Oh, here we go, he's got an opinion. Or here we go, she's got this to say. And I've always been taught, if there's something wrong, you speak on it. I think conversation is the key to everything. Communication and saying how you feel. But when I'm told not to say anything, it makes me question their motives as well as the person that said it in the first place. And at that point, you kind of just feel you are the minority. You are that person in the corner that shouldn't say anything and shouldn't have an emotion, shouldn't say how you feel when you know what they said is wrong.
But that is relying on you being bold enough and willing to do that, isn't it? And not everybody is bold enough to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been in situations where so once I was told that I speak very well for a black guy. Now, to me, I'm not even laughing. It's shameful that someone says that, because it's just like, what do you mean by that? Now, I wanted to react. Naturally, I was angry. I can't deny that. I was angry. I was hurt, but then told to not say anything. Oh, just ignore it. Just ignore it. It's almost that, well, why can't I say anything? Because fair enough, you can say it to me, and I can personally deal with it. I will deal with it, and I'll move forward. However, you could have said that to someone else, and that would have been a lot more of a trigger to them that could have done something a lot worse. And it could keep going. It's like, at what point is this person going to know that that's okay? Because, it's not okay, because you said it to me, but then you're going to go and say it to someone else. And unfortunately, you're going to get to the point where you might say that, and it gets to the person, and they're going to do something that you won't like. And then they're going to be seen as the angry black person that's just retaliated and come out. And it's like, well, you shouldn't be able to be saying these things. So why are we told that we can't say these things for people to know that it's wrong?
Is this the moment then to grab and go, we should always say something then? Everyone should always speak up?
Yeah, like violence is silence at the end of the day. So yeah, you not saying anything, you are being part of the problem with not saying anything. So speaking out, is that what CJ said, will tackle a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I think it's like important to acknowledge, though, that when you're more junior, it's very difficult to speak up.
Yeah.
You're absolutely terrified. You're the only person in that office, of like 20 people, 30 people who is black or whatever ethnic minority or other minority you are. And you're terrified of like people not giving you work, or I've had people being like, oh, Chitsy, you're not very easy. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Or you're really sassy, or like, oh, you shouldn't say these things, or whatever it is. And it's only as I've grown more confident in the fact that I can do a job and that I have loads of contacts that I can feel very comfortable to say like, oh no, that wasn't right, that wasn't on, and also feel comfortable that I could leave that place and go somewhere else and find work, and it wouldn't damage my reputation. But when you are like, when I remember being an intern, like I felt really uncomfortable quite a lot of the time being the only black person in all these settings. You're like the meeting, like the MD of like this really big company. And if someone says something in that situation, whatever it is, you just don't feel like you can. And like the fear of not getting work when you're starting off is so big, and the fear of not being understood is so big. I don't think you, as a junior person, very often have the bravery and the ability to be able to say it. And so then you need to like have senior people who can help you say that.
Right.
If there's someone in my team who's more junior and something happens to them, I feel comfortable now to be able to say that's not okay and to be able to speak for myself. But I think in those early days, it's definitely really hard because people don't understand it, and they will label you something like difficult or angry or sassy. And when people call me sassy, I'm like, was it just witty though? Because that's exactly what they would say to a white man, is like, oh my God, what a witty comment. Exactly.
Right,
I literally have a blanket thing whenever I start a new company. I always tell them, please don't call me sassy because I will lose my shit.
Yeah, right.
I think from that, it's kind of based on my story. Like when you're a black guy from London, I was born and raised in London, from a council estate, and you are kind of launched into a world of middle-class white people, and you are the only person of color in that. In a lot of the times I've been in buildings where I am actually the only black guy in the building, let alone my team.
Other than one of the cleaner or someone at the front desk.
Yeah, security.
Secure always.
Yeah, you feel uncomfortable automatically. You feel a bit like where you kind of just feel you feel uncomfortable, and you're kind of launched into a world where you're with a bunch of middle-class white people who are discussing things that you're not really around. To me, I'm like, I mean, I've got a mixed heritage, but I come from my household was very black and very kind of culturally black.
Yeah.
So you need to walk into a situation full of white people that are discussing a whole different language that I've not heard, not in terms of the logistics of the job, that's very different, but just away from that, you feel.
What kind of thing, CJ, out of interest?
I mean, it could
theatre weekends. Sorry, I've heard
Just
that.
what, yeah, just like personal stuff, like hobbies or just like the world they hang out in, right?
Yeah.
Hang on, I mean, it could be, I mean, when I first started in TV, I kind of was, 20, and you kind of walk into this world where it's discussing, I don't know, like theatre and wine and rugby and all of these things. And it sounds, to many people, it might sound stupid. It might sound stupid. From a black person, your world isn't that. So when you're kind of launched into that world and you're hearing these discussions and you're the only person that isn't in that world, you tend to feel a bit distant and kind of uncomfortable because these aren't the things that you're associated with. So you kind of automatically are then put into the minority on top of your color. So
and that does that then also affect your sort of, well, that networking thing, the sort of the after work stuff or the groups that are formed?
Yeah, it's almost for myself, I knew I wanted to go into TV, and even knowing going into TV, like, I mean, we could start from there, is that I knew I wanted to go into TV, but when I watch TV, let's be honest, there's not many black people on screen. I mean, we've got Trevor McDonald and I don't know, Reggie Yates, so, you know, like there's not many people. So when you are then coming behind the scenes of TV and you walk into this office and you're seeing a multitude of middle-class white people, you almost then feel like, can I even do this? Can I, is this possible?
It's like tokenism.
Yeah,
it's like being like the token. Yeah. And
you are, because then they put you're either on a show that is about the black thing again, and you're seeing the shows that are only about the black thing, you know, rarely. That's why Chewing Gum was such a success, in my opinion, as time wasters, because, well, even, you know, because you're exploring things that aren't just black issues. We're seeing this normal girl that's just trying to lose her virginity, and so everyone can relate to that. Everyone can relate to that at some point. And I feel like there's even ways where you don't even, and this is why it slips through the cracks. You now have to handle the black contributor. There's a problem and you have to handle it. You have to handle the difficult stuff that you may not even be at the level to handle. You've been put in positions where you have to, you know, oh, they're being a bit difficult, or they don't really understand that culture. And instead of them just learning about it through basic conversation, it's like, oh, well, yeah, we can handle it. And it's like, and so then you have to go, cool, I've had to sit in meetings where they've explained things to a black person about why they're doing a show or so, and I'm not allowed to say anything, but I'm there as that token person of like, well, she's on the show, so she's okay with it, so you should be okay with it, because I mean, you're all
because you're supposed to be representing an entire,
exactly,
and we do not represent,
right? And Chitsy and development, I imagine that is a big topic, right? Development is supposed to be casting the net wide and, you know, developing lots of different areas. But if most of your team is one color and part of it is not, then does that responsibility sometimes fall to you, do you find, and unfairly if so?
Yeah, often. I think I care so much about having things that are so like nuanced that I always make a point to raise those things. And like, luckily enough, I've worked in teams where they respect my opinion when it comes to those things. But where it's difficult often is that when you pitch an idea, or, you know, for example, if you're working in docs and there's been a murder of a certain black person, they'll be like, oh, well, that's not mainstream enough. Not many people know about that murder. And I'm like, well, yeah, not many people know about that murder because the media is racist and they didn't highlight it when this girl went missing and, you know, she was murdered and kidnapped or whatever it is, because it so happened that there was another white girl who was kidnapped and killed at that time. And so that can be hard because there's been, you know, those rare times when there's like another brown or black person or person of color in the development room. And, you know, we've pitched something and we've come away and like we've walked to the kitchen together being like, classic, you know, it's niche, classic, it won't resonate. Oh, it's not mainstream enough. Or like, oh yeah, they're not the everyday woman or the everyday man. And it's like, well, when you say those things, you highlight to me how much of a minority I am, and how much even more of a minority all the other people that are like me are. And that's not a comfortable place to be. Other places where it's difficult in development is like, I can write the most nuanced treatment about a topic as possible, and it can get commissioned. But the commissioner can also just take away the nuance because they are comfortable with certain stereotypes. They'll be like, oh yeah, need more of like, you know, the gangster culture, or need a little bit less of this. Like, we need to highlight the violence in this area, or this is, we need to focus on this story for this black boy doing this, blah, blah, blah. And so then actually it ends up feeling like it doesn't matter whether I'm there or not. It doesn't matter whether or not I've written that nuance thing and like have fed back to everyone, and everyone in development in my unit really cares about it, because I might not get to see that product. I'm not there writing the commentary, because often actually once a TV show is getting made, it's the commentary that kind of gives ideas to the audience, and it's like by the time that goes out, like all that nuance has been lost.
It's been filtered right out, right?
It's been filtered right out, and it's like, you know, my team might care, but the commissioner doesn't care, and so a lot of the commissioners are white males. It's like very recently I've started pitching to like black, you know, commissioners, and like that's still rare because there's not that many of them, or like brown.
Well, I think let's come to that subject now, actually, about moving up. You know, I feel and you know, the seniority or lack of black people or people from other, you know, underrepresented groups and disabilities and all sorts at a senior level. You've all referenced that there's you walk into a room and you don't see anyone like you in a more senior position, or very rarely. So what is the problem here? I mean, and actually, just before I go to you guys, I mean, Rosie and I are talented people. We feel that our pool of people from BAME backgrounds seem to be junior, researcher, AP, producer, sometimes PD, not so many though. And at that point, there are fewer and fewer and fewer, right? Yeah. So there's something happening there. And I do know that other people drop out of TV at that point. There are problems with short contracts and, you know, gaps, and, you know, people trying to hold down jobs in London. The freelance life is hard. But what's going on there then, do we feel like, and what can we do to change that?
I think so. Just to kind of start, I think so. What I was like, as I was saying, it's like when you're launching into this world and you're in this world where you are the only person. I knew from me personally, there was no one to look to. There was no one, and I think that is the problem. And I think at that point, it's not pointing fingers to blame anyone individually. At that point, I mean, it's how far do you want to go back? But I never had anyone to kind of tell me and point me in a direction. You kind of are left to figure it out on your own. And the industry is like that anyway. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure we all can relate that the industry is very difficult, and there is no one to kind of guide you unless you have that one ally, that one person that you've had. And don't get me wrong, I've had those people in my career where they kind of taken me on and brought me onto new shows and whatever. But when it is very difficult when you don't see anyone that looks like you, that talks like you, that sounds like you, that is kind of you in a sense. It's very difficult to truly believe that it's possible. It's almost like, I mean, it's slightly different, but it's almost, I don't know, say yourself, Kimberly, if you was to walk into a room and you're like, okay, I'm going to be the female CEO of this company, and you walk in and it's a room full of men.
Yeah.
You almost feel, okay, is this possible? I mean, this is just, can I do
it's
that?
Intimidating.
Yeah.
You won't even ask for it because you're just thinking, well, it's almost like, well, obviously they're going to say no because judging by who's doing the job now, they don't think that I can do it. So I'm either going to have to proper oversell myself and like, and you have to fight for it. To prove, you're always having to prove yourself in some way or the other. And that's from the interview process where it's like,
understood.
oh, I did this show, I did that show. Oh, actually, this is similar to that. It may not be the same as what you've seen, but basically research, you know.
And it's like what you were saying. It's like what you guys were saying, and I'm a firm believer in this. You can't be what you can't see. That's how I see things. You can't be what you can't see. Like if there's not that many people of color in like senior levels, what's gonna make And that's actually one of probably the reasons why I've challenged this industry, because I want to go up to those higher levels, that commission, to go up to that level. So because I came in this industry and the highest person of color who I saw at the time was an AP. And then I was like, okay, that might be possible. But I kept thinking that I need to be the change of this. I can't, and I want somebody, the way how I saw that person as an AP, I want to be that commissioner where like, okay, it's possible for people like runners to go up to that level, people who look like me. Yeah.
And to get to that level and also feel like you don't always have to be doing your best as well. Like you can fail. You can pitch something and it absolutely bombs. You can, you know, just anything. You can't, maybe you don't cast anyone. Do you know what I mean? And then you can't, there's no room for
You're not being constantly judged because
you know, give them a chance, because then also it's like, well, we gave her a chance and look what happened there. So yeah, clearly it's not possible. It's like you're supposed to give me the resources to learn and be better and do better, and not just, again, I feel like there's a lot of kind of the tick boxy, not just with the hiring, but also with like initiatives and kind of meet and greets. And it's like, okay, I've been to so many, like even the faces, I'm like, I know I've seen you guys at some of these meet and greets, and I'm, you know, then it's like, but where does it go forward? I'm giving my card out, I'm emailing, I'm following up, and past that meet and greet where they're like, well, we did this, we did that for the BAME community. It doesn't go.
No, and do you know what? I'm picking up, from what you're all saying as well. I'm pointing at the boxes. I do think that a massive problem with the industry is feedback and support, and that is particularly important for people of color, because I do think, you know, it's lacking everywhere, right? You know, everybody asks us for advice, and we're the middle people. And they're not asking advice to their bosses, or they're not getting it after either an interview or after a contract. So they don't even know what their reference is going to be, let alone people who feel that this is already an uphill struggle, and they don't know why they're not getting rehired, or they don't know why their contracts are getting cut short and they're being replaced by somebody else who looks more like the rest of the team. Feedback, you know, there may well be a reason why somebody isn't good enough at their job, and it may not be, you know, the color of your skin and anything to do with that, but you need to feed back so you can improve on that and then move forward and move up. And that's where I feel like we could come into play here, and we're talking about what positive action we can take as that staffing company, is all these brilliant APs and producers and researchers that we have that we don't get a lot of work for, because companies tend to use us for more senior searches. But this amazing pool of people who could be, you know, in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years time, execs, commissioners, or whatever, those are the people that need the support, and from white people like us, and from everybody who is influential and has the right motivation and the right honesty about them, because otherwise we're just not going to see any changes above producer level, are we?
Yeah, but Kimberly, do you feel like also that plays a part within this industry? This industry is also not regulated. That's why things are slipping through the net.
Yes, that's true.
Word of mouth half of the time as well. And so if you don't know, if you don't know someone in, you know, when I was looking on Indeed and Monster.com and stuff for jobs in TV, and it's a random Facebook group that you have to know 10 people within.
Right. This has come up a lot actually recently as well, you know. Yeah, that's right. In any other industry, anyone can apply for something on a bigger jobs board. And actually this was I don't know if you've all seen this really important letter that's being sent around by the BAME TV task force group today that everybody should look at and sign. It's all in the Facebook groups that we've just mentioned, but there is something in there that is suggested that perhaps jobs become more regulated, like the application process becomes more regulated. It's hard because there are so many things that make it hard. It doesn't mean it's impossible, and there's not a way to regulate in some way, but because of the tight turnarounds and the can they start Mondays that we get, in order to even get them onto a jobs board, they'd be like 2 days and that would be it. However, it doesn't mean that can't be done, or by using a company like us who does have protocol, and you know, we have changed that since our launch, you know, 3-4 years ago now. By using us, we are a fair way to recruit, because we reach out to everybody and we have a process other than production company boss picking up phone to friend saying, are you available? So it is a responsible thing to use a company like us. However, you know, there is obviously still more that can be done to try and regulate and make it fairer. And like you say, not everybody has got a Facebook group, and you know, lots of people or has a Facebook account. And actually those people, especially at the junior end, might not even know they exist.
So true. I was going to say, in terms of what you're talking about, feedback is like, you know, loads of schemes do happen at a junior level, and where I've noticed like people sort of drop off is you do your scheme, you do your 6 months, and then people are like, oh yeah, they just didn't fit in, or like they just never got their work quite right. And it's like, well, actually, have you given them feedback? And I think quite a lot of it is an industry-wide thing, is like managers aren't trained in TV. You like work your way up, you become a producer, and all of a sudden you can like manage people. And it's like, absolutely not. Like, you need to know how to manage people. And quite a lot of that is that people aren't being nurtured, and people aren't being sat down and spoken to. It's like, you know, when we've had people in our team who are more junior and they're struggling with something, it's like, oh, I can't write this para because my teacher in school told me that I wasn't very good at writing, for example. Sounds silly, but actually, if you're like black or quite actually very often you're underestimated in school, and that will impact how confident you feel when it comes to like writing stuff, for example. You've gone through all the way through school and someone's told you you're a bad writer, or like questioned your abilities to do quite a lot of stuff. You're not going to feel that confident. And actually, if you're a good manager and you can have those conversations where you sit down and you say, oh, this thing wasn't like, you know, what I was expecting, talk me through what you thought about it, or like, let me teach you how to do it. Like, or let's compare these two things, and can you pick out what the differences are? And, you know, I've been lucky to have people who've taught me those things, but like not everyone is that lucky.
I do think that is a key to a lot of things, because that's also about self-confidence. It gives you the chance to say, how can I improve? It gives you the chance to build that relationship with that person as well, because even if they had an opinion of you before, if you just walked out the door and off to your next contract and they never spoke to you again, they wouldn't realize how much you wanted to learn. And actually they might feel like differently towards you if you go, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I could have done it like that. Tell me, I want to learn, tell me more.
Exactly. And I think it's like, you know, very often the messaging is like, once you make it into TV on some sort of scheme and you're from an ethnic or minority background, it's like, I have been on a particular scheme where they told you to feel really grateful, and actually like white people aren't walking around feeling grateful. They're just like asking and demanding the things that they want, and actually that makes you feel like you can't ask for help, you can't ask for certain things. It's like, oh, I should just be really grateful that I'm here, and actually that's not what helps. And I think I've also worked in a place where somebody was like, oh yeah, we do bring people in on schemes, but like they're often just useless. And it's like, well, they're not. Because I was like, well, I've done 2 diversity schemes, and they're like, oh yeah, but you're different, Shitzy. And I'm like, but I'm not really, am I? I'm still black. I still came into a scheme. I still needed that 6-month contract.
It seems to keep coming back to personality almost, and people who are kind of emboldened to speak up or are brave enough to, and that's just not okay.
Oh, thanks for saying I've got a great personality, Kimberly.
Of course. CJ, where do you stand on the whole promotion thing, or why people aren't moving up?
I think I do think it's, I kind of want to, there's a few things I just want to touch on, but I think it's, again, it is that you don't have anyone to kind of mentor you. Like I said, the whole thing about the kind of feels that that talk like you, speak like you, act like you, and you don't believe in yourself. You have this self-doubt, and a lot of people might say to that is like, well, yeah, we all have those struggles. And even that, it's almost like, yes, we all have those struggles, but what, like the whole term with what's going on now with like white privilege, is that color is never, and that's what makes it white privilege, is that your color never comes into play. Whereas I know a lot of people that before they apply for a job, they're looking at the website to see if there were black people there. You know, and we all do it. We all kind of feel like, well, I want to know if I'm going to be accepted, or if I'm just going to be that token black guy to just make them look like, okay, well, we've got the black guy, it's fine. And the commissioner comes in the office and it's like, no, it's okay. Like, it's okay.
You know, and cast the black people as well. Do the black shows.
It may sound so silly and so stupid, but when you are kind of forced to feel like that, you can't hide from it. And like I said, there's so many different people that I know who or message me, or they're coming into, want to get into TV or want to do this, and they're like, yeah, well, CJ, I can't because, well, are they going to be all right? Because I don't see any black people on there, and I don't see this, and I don't see that, and it kind of, and people do get put off, and people don't want to do it. And I'm not sitting here saying that I know it and I do it, because I've gone through the struggles and I've had various different experiences where I just feel like, what is the point? Why am I even doing this? Like, can I continue on? And you do question it. And I don't think it's as easy to say, well, I didn't get that job because I'm black. Like that, we can't, that's not what we're saying. And I say that, you know, I don't think that's, so if anyone's thinking like, oh, well, you can't say that, you can't say you didn't get the job. That's not what anyone is saying at all, because that's here there. We can't say we did not get the job because of that. But we can be led to feel like that, because you can, with the whole feedback thing, you in sometimes in your head, you're going back and thinking, well, okay, well, I did that job and I did that, and I felt like I did a good job. They told me I did a good job. They called them as a reference, so it can't be that. Then I did this and that was fine. And it's like, well, mate, is it because of my color? And you question yourself. You look at yourself and think, well, and then you might go, someone's told me a story where, this isn't my personal story, but someone had told me a story where that happened, and then they went back and looked at the website and looked at everything, and they were like, well, I didn't really see any people of color in their team. Is that what it is? And then you start to kind of have that emotion and start feeling, well, maybe that's got to be it. And that's not, for me, this whole racism thing is not individuals and that, it is a systematic racism thing. That's people that they are not aware of. And I can't stress that enough, because people are not aware of it. And it's hard because you can't, I'm probably going into another realm with this, but you can't blame, I'm not sitting here saying, Kimberly, it's your fault, it's you. I'm not, no, not to you, Kimberly, but I'm not sitting here saying it's you. But when you see that you're distilled in something and you're not realizing it and you're saying these things, it's almost that there has to be a problem. Well, I mean, there is a problem. And it's moments like this and these conversations where we're open and you're asking questions, we're asking questions, that is what makes it grow. And what's going to make it better, because we can't just sit here. I think I'm not saying we, but there's a lot of point fingers. There's a pot of, oh, well, I'm not racist. I've got my girlfriend's black. And, you know, I've actually racism from the closest of people that I thought were friends or colleagues and various different things. So it's not that, it's almost like it is very much deeper than that. And it's actually, like I've said so
it's like unconscious, I guess.
So it's like unconscious bias is very
you have your presumptions, your prejudice, and everyone has that, and and we're all aware of that. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has flaws, everyone has, you know, assumptions about this person, that person, a short person, a fat person, a skinny person. Everyone, you know, we all do it whether we mean to or not. But what the issue is that it is done at a disproportionate rate to Black people in many industries, in many types of ways. I can only, God knows what happens in corporate, stories I've heard there, let alone in TV, where again, it's liberal, so things can just slide. And it's like, you don't even realize that you asking me, oh, do we get him a grill? Because, you know, you want him to be a bit urban, or, oh yeah, you're urban, like what music? You don't even realize that you're just like, you're assuming that I know all the rap songs and I know all the hip hop and this, that, and the other. And yeah, I do. But I also know, you know, S Club 7 as well, because I grew up in Britain with you lot and did, you know what I mean? So it's like, treat me and judge me on that the same way you would treat another white person. You know, and
this is also
and if I don't understand, explain. And again, you know, and it's the same. It has to be that give and take.
And it's like what Yemi, it's like what you were saying. I think it's the whole thing about us being treated differently. That's the issue. That's the issue, and I think
differently. But then yet they're saying we don't see color. You know,
of course.
You know, it's like, so then you're just stuck in this kind of like, I know your intentions are there. I get it, and I understand. And we can play devil's advocate to a Black and Blue, but it's, you know, it's like, if this was done to another white person in the same way, again, you take race out of it, that would not be accepted. So how come I have to endure that? And then again, at the level I'm at, just kind of have to be like, oh, well, it's the game. We all know the TV game is pretty bloody hard and like just a madness, isn't it? We're aware, but it's that extra layer where it's like, you're not putting race on it. So it's like everything that everyone deals with on top of the assumptions and the prejudice and the, you know, the tokenism and the, oh, you're gonna again, you talk to that contributor because, oh yeah, you'll understand. But yeah, I can't explain things at a commissioner level because I'm not in those meetings. I'm not in those emails. What can I actually bring to this? And then when I don't bring that, I'm shit at my job.
Yeah.
Add something to that. Oh, I was going to add something to that. This is the thing. I think people, and that's another issue. What I've got. I'll quickly just say this quickly, but like, there's people talking about diversity, and they don't even know a single thing about it at the end of the day. And that is, I think, is so frustrating about this industry. It's like, probably just understand your unconscious bias within things before you start preaching diversity. Practice what you preach. That's what I'm pretty much trying to say.
Yeah, sometimes it can be quite funny, isn't it? Like, the chair of diversity is a white man who's like 45, and you're like, what are you chairing? You know about being diverse. You're like the most powerful person here, and you're white. You had all this privilege.
No idea.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about language. Actually, I do think so. There's a lot of people who, and I'm the first person to put the hand up and ask silly questions or honest questions. I'm happy to do that, and so I feel like there are some people who will be feeling the same sort of thing as me. And that I've spoken to you all about language, as in there'll be some people who are confused or uncomfortable or worried about saying the right thing. So not just in terms of calling you by a group. Is BAME okay? Lots of you said BAME is not okay. I mean, people have different opinions, which is stress as well. I'm not pushing that on all of you guys. Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, disability. There's a lot of language flying around and no one knows quite what to say, as well as diversity. I mean, like you say, that's sort of shoving it all together and just hoping that word covers everything. Doesn't, and that's what you're saying, Kabina. It's sort of just a word that's banded about. But how, is it okay that people are confused about what to say? And how do we handle that now? Because I want people here on who are commenting, and I'll come to a question shortly, guys, to feel okay to say, I don't know what to say.
I can only comment for myself. Every person can only comment for themselves. And I think when you never want to compare it to something as like insidious as like abuse and things like that. But if you do, it's kind of like, how do you talk to someone who has been through something traumatic, right? Now, their experiences are going to be different from the second person who you speak about, who has been through something traumatic. The first person might not want to speak about it. They might shut you out. They may scream, blah, blah, blah. Does that mean the second, and again, we're saying friends or people does that mean you're not going to call them up and be like, are you okay? Or send them this or do this, that, and the other? No, because morally, humanly, that's wrong. We just care about people. So it's a trial and error kind of thing, in my opinion. I prefer to be black. I'm black. I'm not BAME. I'm not, I'm black. It is what it is. That's what it is. You can see it. You can hear it. Whatever the case. And so tiptoeing around it, it's like, I've never questioned what some people might want to be called Caucasian instead of white. So if I say, oh, you're a white, even now let's go into gender pronouns. Some people don't want to be she or he. It's them, that. So how come we can accept the change everywhere else in every way, shape or form, but when it comes to race, I think because racism is just so hard and so like, it's got such, the history of it, people just go, no, the African American, the Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah, it's almost like they're second guessing a problem
I'm British,
rather than just going for it or saying, how can I refer to you?
But
you might get a bad reaction, you might get a great reaction.
Yeah.
Read the room as well. Do you know what I mean? You ain't gonna walk into a room of black people and be like, yo, like, no.
Yeah.
So just be smart like you would in any other way, right?
It's like what you were saying. So you know what? I spoke about this with you, Kimberly. I've been in some spaces, right? And some people cannot say the word black.
Oh no.
And I think that is so frustrating. It's like black is some sort of derogatory word or something.
Yes,
like
exactly, yeah.
Say it. And for me, and I don't know if they're feeling that they're uncomfortable because I might get offended, but I identify myself as a black person. I can't speak for everybody else, but I want to be identified. I identify myself as black. So I feel like, why can't you say, I just don't understand. It's like, oh, am I gonna get offended? Am I gonna get angry? It's just like, and I've also noticed in a way where like people, can't speak for everyone, but some people have used BAME, and I know they're trying to imply black in a room because it's just like, why can't you just say black? I know that you're not trying to say Asian, or if you're trying to imply a black person, but it's like you just can't say the word, and that to me is actually frustrating.
That's the look, and look at that, and even that as simple as the word of what we are. Do you know what I mean? That is something that is a debate and a topic and a question. So you can, so that's even from the, you know, what is that? So what is there to do?
Go on, Chitsy.
I don't like being called BAME. And I think it's because it sanitizes what it is. Like, it allows people to just throw that around. So, you know, like, if you're going to write, so for example, like on an ed spec or something, I had someone write, our AP is BAME. Actually, if you're going to write our AP is black, it might make you pause about why you're writing that. Like, you know, why do you have to highlight that I'm black? Or is it because you have to meet some kind of diversity quota?
Right.
Like, you know, we should be honest about the language that we're using. So like 95% of the production is white. Like, why do I have to be singled out as the BAME AP?
Right, yeah, that's true.
You know, it's like, it's irritating, and it's just like, call me black, or like, ask me what I'm comfortable with.
Yes.
And I think it will allow, it's like, it allows people just to say things that they normally wouldn't, and it allows people to highlight people's minority status when they don't need to. Like,
why do you need to highlight
as a kind of like benefit to the production or the development idea or whatever it is? And it's like, actually, just say what it is. The person's black, the person's Asian, the person's a Muslim, or the person's blah, blah, and you think it's great because blah blah blah, it will do this for the show. And actually, I think the use of BAME means that people don't get to approach the kind of the nuances or the difficult things about race and ethnicity in Britain. It's like, so yeah, why are we highlighting that this person is a Muslim? Why are we highlighting that this person is Asian or Chinese or whatever it is? Why do we need to say that? And so that's where I think people just like throw it around.
Yes.
Like, stop
CJ, what do you think?
Let's break it down. So BAME is what? Black, Asian, minority, ethnic.
Yeah.
I'm a black man, I'm not Asian. So why am I? BAME is the category, I get that, it is the category, but I am a black man. I am a black male and I'm proud to be black, and that's it. There's no question, you know, and I'm a minority. I'm only a minority because I'm in Britain. Like, if I was in somewhere else, if I was in the Caribbean, I wouldn't be a minority. I'm black. So it's almost like, why we kind of segregate. It's like a lot of casting, you always hear, oh yeah, he's fine, let's get him, he's BAME. And it's like, well, no, he's...
Yes, he is BAME. Yeah, that doesn't make, actually doesn't even make sense. He is 4 groups of people.
All the time, and I always change it in treatments. I'm always like getting rid of it.
I do.
I as
a person, I mean, again, like we're all saying, we can't speak for everybody, but for me, I would rather be asked, oh, so where are you from? Do you know what I mean? Rather than just being, it's almost like it's like, okay, he's BAME. It's like you haven't actually, lazy. It's not actually taking in consideration and thinking about it. It's just actually being lazy to just be like, well, okay, well, yeah, he's BAME, let's just put him in that corner, over there.
Okay, here's another question actually to do with that. Instead, I think people struggle with this question too. So white people like me, you don't want to ask, where are you from? Because you're probably from London, right? Or from Manchester or wherever. What is the correct, or what is an acceptable, in your personal opinions, term to ask is it about your heritage?
Well, why are you asking?
Yeah, why are you asking?
Out of interest, not even to do with jobs or work, or like, hey, I feel like I want to know about your background. Like, you might want to know where my family is from. I don't know, probably don't.
I want to know about your background. I think it depends on the context of the conversation.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, you know, if you're chatting about things, like, you know, it's like someone yesterday asked me, like, I referenced the fact that I'd moved from Zimbabwe, and so then they asked me questions about that. Right. That is like, that's fine. Yeah. What I take offense to is, like, if you're sitting at a table randomly and someone's like, so Chitsy, what's your name? Like, where are you from? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my God, you're Zimbabwe. Oh my God, you speak such great English. You know, it's like the context of it makes it uncomfortable.
I feel like there's other common ground questions. I can understand it, where it's like you're trying to maybe find out a bit more about my background and, you know, maybe where my parents from, or this, that, and the other. But there are other ways, and not even other ways, but yeah, there's other ways to get to know someone. I think, you know, and it's not like, I feel like that question, like maybe unless I had an accent, and even then it's like, oh, where's your accent from, maybe. But otherwise, I'm speaking to you in English. Apart from, again, you being black, there is no indicator that I should be really from anywhere else but Britain.
Yeah,
so,
fair point.
You know, if you want to know what type of music I listen to, oh, what was the last book you read? Oh, do you like to travel? There are other ways we can talk about where I'm from and that side of what I like and my culture and things like that, without it being like, oh, well, where are you from? Because I don't go up to anyone and ask where they're from, really, unless again it's like, oh my gosh, Manchester, is that Manchester, or is that, you know, a different accent, or you reference a place that I've never heard before, and I was like, oh, where's that then? I've never heard that phrase, or I've never heard that term.
You should all know that actually on the Facebook comments, everyone's going like wild about this and saying totally. And the fact that you've all said, why would anyone even be asking that is just
there's just other ways. It's almost lazy.
I think it's just lazy. Kind of triggered by that.
Yeah.
You hear it so much from like people you know,
strangers. I had this guy come up to me.
Yeah, like, you know, that people tell you look exotic, whatever it is. It's like such a bit in general.
What about though, relating it back to TV? What about when people are asking you about your background, maybe because they're trying to, you know, with their positive action, and then you know, we want to get more people who are Black or from all the other groups of minorities into our company. If they're right for the job, we really want to promote this. Is that an appropriate time to ask that question, or still not?
I think it depends what else has been said before that conversation. Like what else are you talking about, and also kind of like explain why.
Yeah.
And being Black is, I mean, you've got African, you've got Caribbean, and it's very, very different. So it's almost that,
it's like, where are you from? Oh, so you want to get more Nigerians on this project specifically because it's a Nigerian project, or do you want to know if you want more London people on the project? Because it's kind of like, how does it benefit the end result? Knowing where I'm from and my experience, again, unless it 100% is like, oh yeah, this is a show about a Nigerian girl who was born in London and her parents weren't born in this country, then you can be like, Yemi, right, cool. What's this? What's that? Where, like, blah, blah, blah. Because there's a reason for it. But when it comes, again, it's just grouping everyone, going, oh, where are you from? Oh, you're from here. That means there must be from there. So then, I said this to her, so I can say it to them. Or we're all different. And so
and that's what I was saying. It's about treating us different. That's where it comes from. That
the person that I am, not, again, the assumptions that you may not even realize you have. And then again, the defensiveness. So if I'm like, oh, like, I'm from London. Oh, well, you know what I mean. I'm like, well, I don't know what you mean. And then there's a half, and then there's the tension now, and now that's that relationship.
I'm not gonna lie, I play along with that. I'd be like, oh, I'm from. If somebody, where you from? London. Where? Hackney. I'll just go.
Brixton. I keep going.
What, the street name?
Gotta keep going.
Sometimes I say my grandma's from Manchester. Oh yeah. I love it. I'll say any. Oh, I don't mind. I say it.
And I think it's also like there's an assumption that just because you're Black, you will have some kind of knowledge about a specific area. But actually, one might be better suited to doing something in the Middle East.
PJ, what are you going to say?
I mean, kind of or like I know loads about because I live there. I'd be like, that's a surprise, but actually, I'd be rubbish at a Black related thing about growing up in London because I didn't grow up here.
Exactly.
I'm going to go to some questions now, and because I can't believe how long we've talked for already. It's brilliant. Right, so quite a few people actually. Thank you for your questions. Are asking about how you guys feel. Obviously, your own personal opinions about diversity quotas. Again, that word diversity again, quota again. But do you feel, is the issue about hiring people who are qualified for the role regardless of their colour, and it's about the net just needing to be widened and support, or how do you feel?
I feel that so many companies and shows and just everything, they preach that they reflect the world that we live in, and then it's all white. And so that's what brings in the diversity quota in the first place. I feel like the fact that there has to be a diversity quota, that should be investigated rather than trying to fill it. Because you're right, the best person for the job should get it. But if you're not seeing everyone, and in most reasons you can't see everyone, but if you sit down and every single person that you've interviewed is white, you don't think, right, like that, not one Black, like, so pause pause the interview, pause the search,
Pause game.
pause it and just be like, interesting. Okay, clearly where we've outreached, who it's reaching hasn't reached the diversity that exists in this world. And so it's a practice what you preach. You can't say, oh yeah, with this I've got a black friend, blah blah blah, but then every day you go to your office and everything's all white and you think that's okay. And then and if you do think that's okay, say it. I won't apply for your company. I won't kick up a fuss. You've said it, put it right there.
Yeah.
You know it's racist to do that. And so you can't. And so
but the fact is right now that the numbers are not high enough. So assuming that, how do you feel that there is a quota in place? CJ?
It's very difficult. I mean, it's like what Yemi was saying earlier, it's been going on for so long, and it's hard because it has been going on for so long, and it's like it's not going to be something that's happened overnight. It's definitely not going to happen overnight, but it's now that people have to look into it and start to check themselves and think about why they're not doing it and why it's not happening. And like what Yemi's saying, it's kind of the question of why is there a diversity quota? Why that shouldn't really be a thing. And like you said, it should be the right person for the job should get it. It's not about, well, okay, well, I'm black and I didn't get it because it's not about that. It's actually deeper than that, and understanding, okay, well, why have we even put a diversity quota? Why is, it's just that it should just be we want to see as much people as we want and keep going. And it's having just that mix of people, but it is hard because I don't think it's anyone to personally blame. Personally, from my point, you can't blame anybody. It is the system, and it's
system. Yeah, some people aren't even aware.
Yeah.
To apply. How would I didn't even know I could work. I interviewed a black guy who was like, I didn't even know black people worked in TV. I was the first black person he'd met that he'd seen putting out a casting call or doing anything. So how would you know? He's not on the random Facebook groups. He doesn't have a cousin who was an extra in one, know. So again, you don't blame them because it's from the ground. It's on the top, or the top.
It's very good. Where does it start? Because I know when I was like, okay, I just loved TV. I loved TV. I always was intrigued on how it was made, and oh my gosh, they done that shot, but how did they get over here, and how did they do? And that was where I got my interest from. But it was almost, I remember thinking, but can I be in that place? Can I do that? And it was only because it was a friend of mine. His mum worked at reception and kind of got me in through that way and that sort of stuff. But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have known what to do. And different people, everyone keeps saying, like, we all have those struggles. We all may not know, and that is TV. The media industry is very much about who you know and that sort of thing. But it's almost when you kind of, you're sitting at home and you're watching TV and you're in a position where, like a lot of black families is very different. You're brought up very different, and you're kind of taught in a certain way to how to get into work. And as long as you've got a job, that's fine. And that is kind of across the board in certain regions as well. But in black households, it's very different. So when you're kind of not taught that, as black people, we don't have that generational
nepotism.
The industry's built of nepotism
and generational wealth to be able to work a freelance job where you're not getting paid all the time, or you may not be working all the time, there's so much. It's so layered that we're not, again, you can't blame people because it's built into the system. So now it's like, okay, everyone recognizes that. What are we going to do to change it? It's going to primary school and be like, did you know you could do lighting, you could do sound? It's not just an actor, an athlete, or a rapper or a drug dealer. Do you know what I mean? And then that's because that's all you're seeing on the media. And again, it goes back to the shows that, because again, in the development rooms, they're like, and it's with the good intentions of, we need more black shows. We're not seeing the representation. We haven't ticked the quota. Oh, there was a shooting there. Let's cover that, the mainstream thing. And it's like, I don't know. I don't even know. Like,
there's a lot to be done at that junior end, for sure. I mean, I know that we're all talking to and aspiring to, and we must have more black people and Asian minority, I think, up top. It's so important. But there's a big problem at the junior level. We've identified that as talent managers and being in telly for a long time. Even at uni, Rosie and I have done days at colleges before. Kavina, you know that. And we met Kavina at Ravensbourne College a few years back. And we did a presentation about the roots up in TV. And afterwards, so many people just came up to us and went, we did not know any of this. We had not even heard of any of those job titles. Why? And we're like, well, why are they not being taught in your courses? And so actually, perhaps it is that we have a responsibility to go out and tell people what is possible, and then where to look for work, and all of the things that we've just been talking about. But I mean, then that will take many years to filter through. I get that. We need to do things now.
And again, allowing people room to learn as well. You know, some people don't have the sometimes you just have to BS your way, as people do in the industry as well. Full disclosure, my first job was a logger, and the woman called and was like, oh yeah, we need a logger. I didn't know what the hell a logger was. I was like, what is a logger in TV? What do they do? Type what? I can type, sure. Do you know what I mean? But if I'm like, oh, I wanna write, actually, I'm not gonna get the job because I don't know what jobs are out
you don't
there.
know what it actually is.
Junior level, and I think the different stages at the top.
I think kind of moving forward and what should happen and how to kind of expand on those things. It's not so much like we keep saying. It's not blaming anyone individually. It's not like, well, you need to do this and you. It's as collective, as Black people, as white people, we've kind of just got to, because what's happening, I think it's going like this, and no one's actually kind of doing that. Thank you. Exactly. And it's happening is someone's blaming this person. No, I'm not racist. No, and it's just doing that, and no one's actually. And this is why I'm so, like I said to you, Camille, I'm so glad that this is happening, because I've seen a few other webinars and different things happening, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad it's. And I'm not trying to disrespect them, but it's. And this is the various ones that I've seen. They're like, oh, it's so glad that it's just Black people. And I get that, I do get it, but we also have to find that understanding. And I think that's what's missing, is that people do not know. Like the other day, because I put a status up and I was like, if anyone has any questions on anything, like, because I feel like everyone needs to know. And someone asked me, I mean, we'll go into the whole conversation maybe another time, but it was like, well, why do Black people use the term nigger when it was used in such a negative term? Why do they use it now? And it was like, in my head, I was like, you do not know. And should you know? Yes. And it's also. Do
you mean it's the assumption that they should know and they don't, therefore even asking the question is wrong? Is that what you mean, CJ?
Well, I don't think the question is wrong. I think it's just, I'm kind of getting to the point that people do not know everything, and we can't assume that everyone is going to know everything. And it's these conversations where you've asked questions, we've asked questions, and it's kind of being able to just kind of take away that element of, oh, well, he's diverse and he's and to kind of strip
it back to the honest words and the open conversations. And I feel that people have been worried to speak up, you know, and I'm not going to lie, we discussed whether we should be doing this session or not, right? And I was honest with you all about that. And you all said, absolutely, it is the right platform, you're using it in the right way, the intentions are great, people just need to keep talking. And I'm happy to say I don't know everything, and I want to ask you guys for support and help, and I know it's not all on me, and I get that, and I need to go away and educate myself and read and talk to Rosie and work out what we're doing internally at Talented People. But at the same time, I'm not scared, and I will always ask questions, because I just think that being collaborative now is the way forward, as CJ is saying. And I'm not afraid to say that. And I know everyone has different opinions.
Yeah. And I also think
with what you're saying,
I don't think it's as easy as like, I mean, a lot of people are like, well, go and educate yourself, go and read the books and go and like watch these things on Netflix. And I'm encouraging people to do that. Like, I'm not taking that away, go and do that. But that isn't just it, it's almost like, I was saying to you, Kimberly, it's almost like a book club. You can't just, okay, well, let's just read chapter 2 and but go and read that chapter, but let's come back and let's discuss it and how we're going to make things better, because it's not, it isn't just being like, I can tell you go and watch 13 on Netflix. I encourage everyone to go and watch it, yes, but it's almost like, okay, you've gone and watched it, but the reality is you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so bad, like, oh my God, did that happen? And it's almost like, that's why I didn't really want this to be about my experiences, because I've had endless experiences, but I can deal with my experiences. I don't like them, but the damage has been done. But it's about moving forward. Like I've gone through endless things and called certain racist terms, or like I've been sat in meetings where stupidly, just because it came to mind, and this has happened a couple of times, where seniors have been going through like Halloween pictures and they dressed up as someone black and they painted themselves black, but didn't see that as an issue. And they're sitting there laughing and joking, and this has happened in work and outside of work. And they're sitting and laughing about it, thinking that it's okay to be in that position. And it's almost like, and I at that point, I kind of was like, I got a bit upset and kind of just walked away. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to react because, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, how, like, and I said, and I expressed how I felt. And I was like, you can't, that's not cool. And they were like, oh, come on, stop being silly. It's funny.
Right.
Like,
but that's the thing. That's the
sensitive one.
It made me wish to feel like I can't.
The difficult one.
I'm surrounded by a group of white people that have now have turned it and now made me feel that I have a problem.
The wrong opinion. Let me just come to Chitsy. Chitsy, what did you want to say about that?
Oh, well, we've spoken about a few things now. I was going to say about diversity quotas and bringing junior people in. I think companies should ask themselves questions about, we've brought someone in on a diversity quota. How many of those people have we kept on in the company? How many of those people have we, when they've decided to leave, how many have we then said, oh, like, how was your experience here? Did you feel included? Is there anything that we could have done to support you? Have you promoted any of those people? Can you see them on your website? Or is it still that they come in and they're right at the bottom and they never like make their way up? And then on the point of like teaching and education, I think quite often people talk of it as if it's like our like onus to like teach white people how to be nice, respectful human beings. And actually it's not. I don't want it anymore to be the
same.
Like minorities to teach like white people how to be. Like we learn about the world by reading and watching things and everything else, and like white people can do the same. Like, I mean, you can Google books to read, you can watch things, and you can talk about them. Like I'm open to talk about them, but I don't want to be like your teacher about it, because by being your teacher about it, you're bringing up a lot of personal things and a lot of trauma for me, like a lot of moments that have been triggered. And actually, I would just like to be like a happy human being.
Right.
You know, like in
doing
that
a great job, in a
highlighting
great company.
You know,
I'm the same.
exactly.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, Kabina?
Yeah, I'm on the same page with Chitsy on that one. It's like, I don't think race is this whole thing is not my issue. It's yours. It's your issue that you have to sort of learn and understand, because it's again, it's like trauma. I've gone through, with me having to sort of speak about it and educate. I don't want to relive that sort of trauma. This is something that I think white people, you lot need to look deep inside and understand. And I'm not even trying to say go and watch and actually slave films and all of that. That don't mean anything, basically. You need to watch
them. I'm done with them, honestly.
Yeah, you need to watch. There's so many resources out there, and which is free as well. And even I think leaderships, people who are at higher, like CEOs of companies, look deep inside and have a look. All of these things, all of these resources, they're all free. It's not hard to get. You don't have to pay anything, but it's just like.
Is it okay that I ask you questions though, Kabina?
It's okay to ask me questions and all of that, but actually it's the thing where like I don't want ignorant questions as well. Yeah. At the end of the day,
Understood.
I'm not teaching ignorance. There's the questions you're asking me are totally fine, but there's just some where you just know it's a lazy question, and I don't feel like I have to answer to that.
No.
So
no matter the question, even as silly as it is, whatever, if you're asking anyone a question, you just be prepared to get an answer. And that's it. And it may not be the answer you want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's across the board again.
Exactly.
Just again, take race out of it. If you ask someone a stupid question, you might get a stupid answer. So what is anything different from this? You know? And so it's learning, I feel like, to be uncomfortable, have the uncomfortable questions, but also have that uncomfortable feeling after of like, oh shit, I did that.
Yeah.
Maybe not to you, but I have done that and I didn't address it. I didn't say anything. This is where I've been complicit in this issue. Yes, I know I'm not a hardcore white supremacist, but I've been racist. There we go. Boom.
Yeah.
It is. I'm not ears at you, and I'm still talking to you. I'm still here. Your number is still on my phone. We're still interacting. I still love you. I still, you know, so
it's about being human and honest and direct, isn't it?
And everyone living and being uncomfortable. And anyone trying to make anyone feel better, because it's that as well, where it's like, then you get examples of when, oh, well, I did this for this person, or, oh, but I did that. And it's like, or, oh, a similar thing happened to me. And it's like, so now I need to make you feel better about times.
Right, and it goes around.
Sexism or something.
I get it.
And racism, I was going to say racism
on.
is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but we've been living through it. It's uncomfortable. There's no easy way, and I feel filtering it down is not helping the situation at all. So, I mean, this is the reality, and I think, and having conversations like this is going to break away from making it more comfortable in the long term. But yeah, there's no easy way about it. So
yeah,
it is
we should all be like able to sit in that uncomfortable, and like what you're saying about like often it then ends up being the minority person feeling like they need to make the person who's kind of triggered them or offended them. And they're like seeking that.
Exactly.
But like, you know, am I the worst person? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, actually, like, you've made me feel uncomfortable. You should be able to sit in your uncomfortableness because you're expecting me to sit in my uncomfortableness.
It's true. And why should it's true. And then
human.
It's true. And then we're at a point where like we are tired of compromising. We compromise every single day. Like, why should we have to compromise over an issue that affects us? It's just not going to work like that.
And just do better overall.
Do better. I've been jotting some words down as we've been talking because I'm going to have to wrap up in a minute. And so I'll come back to you for sort of final points. But you know, I hear you, and we've had some incredible comments, and I haven't had a chance to ask them all. So actually, you guys, I would say if you have time and if you're willing, you know, feel free to look at the comments on the Talented People Facebook page after, and you know, see you've got major support here as well. So there's big, you know, real momentum and real, I think, genuine intent for positive action here from everybody. But you know, I've scribbled down actions over words, and you know, if there's something wrong, to speak on it, and you need to have allies and champions, but equally to be the best at your job and not have to answer to people's questions all the time either. And I think I feel like it's, you know, as talented people, we can be doing more. We can be doing more of this. We can be having loads of chats behind the scenes and putting people forward for jobs, you know, reaching our net wide, having conversations with our clients. I think that's it. There's often a problem up top, and that's for us to try and influence, I believe. But is there anything that you guys want to say finally before we sign off? CJ, should I come to you?
Just check yourself.
You wreck yourself.
No, like, so, I don't know, like, there is, I mean, it's such a wide discussion, and it is.
And this is the beginning, okay? We don't have the answers right now.
I mean, someone asked me yesterday, like, are you sure you want to do it? Why are you doing it? Like, you've done good shows, and you've worked on Love Island, you've worked on X Factor, you've done all these things, and it was like, but it's not just about me. It's not just about me, and I will take that to my grave. It's not just about me, and when it becomes personal, where it becomes your colleagues, your friends, your family, racism, and dealing with all of these things, it's just draining and emotionally draining, and having to explain everything. But I also want people to know that this is just, it's a collaboration, it's coming together, and it's actually just finding understanding that we can move forward and away from this, and actually just being human. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but we have to remember that there's only one race, and it's the human race, and ethnicity, and there's actually differences between them all, and people are not getting that, and everything else, and nothing. Yeah. So there's.
Thank you, CJ. That's very philosophical. I like that. Yemi, any final comments from you?
Yeah, I guess just it's gonna be time. It's just time. I feel like everyone needs to give everyone time. Give us time to heal and try to live again with this new kind of burden that we have to deal with, but don't let that, you know, deter you from learning and asking the questions and having those uncomfortable, you know, realizations or conversations, you know. And also, I just don't want this and these topics to be the only time you're seeing Black people on the screen, Black people in the media, because it's always that, and that doesn't help the bigger picture, because again, all you're seeing is pain and suffering, and then you're going to act accordingly going forward without even realizing, you know, we know that it's not as in your face hardcore, it's deeper than that. So it's learning that, accepting that, and keeping it pushing, because, you know, we're all humans, we all suck, quite frankly. So it's just learning that, accepting it, and just doing better. That's me.
Thank you, Yemi. Chitsi?
I think what basically we all really love TV here, and we just want it to be a better place, like where you can like thrive and you can do well. I think companies should just mentor people just way more, so that we keep people working in the industry. And I just think people should go and educate themselves, but also just be very welcoming in general and like sort of open-minded about what they're doing. I think my final thing is that I hope, having had COVID and all of that, companies and commissioners don't go back to like hiring safe pair of hands, because everyone loves to do that. And I hope that this doesn't put safe hands, and I hope this doesn't affect it and like slow that down a lot more. So that's my final bit.
Thank you. And Kabina?
Oh, sorry, Kavina.
Oh yeah. Oh no, what were you going to say?
No, go. I'll say.
Oh, okay. My final thoughts is just please educate yourselves, and even just like look deep inside and see and see on what you can do to improve. And it's like what I'm saying, right? What I was saying before. If you see racism in the office or anywhere, even in your household, you need to be able to call that out, because with you not keeping that quiet, you're part of the problem in a sense. And another thing is like, I want this industry to change. And is that what people are saying? We're the wrong generation people mess around with. And I think like bring more of us into the industry. And my final thought is, my trauma and everybody on the panel's trauma is not your trend. That's one thing. Black Lives Matter is not a trend. It's something that we need to keep riding now. And if you support it, then you would back us with everything and the support.
It's for the long term.
People in general as well. No, acknowledging some issues that you don't even realize against Black people, against people with disabilities, against trans, against everything. It will just better you in general, because we're going to be just more aware, and it's just it's for the human race, it's for the bigger cause. So just
and it's
feeling galvanized.
We all know what it feels like. We all know traumas. We all have it within us. Fighting that through, because we're going through it too. It's not just blaming white. It's like we all have to just look inside and fight that. We know it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's also finding yourself to feel like you know that it's accepting it, and just being real. Stop tiptoeing around everything and actually just
yes. Yeah, and that's what you guys have already taught me, and I thank you for that, for allowing me to speak so directly and honestly as well. And massive thank you for taking part today. I know that you were pretty nervous, and it's been an emotional time, and it's been exhausting for you all. And I just wish you all so much love and respect, and hope that we can find you work at some point if you're not working already, just but seriously, stay in touch. Everybody on Facebook is saying huge thank you for your time and for being so bold to speak out, and let's keep this conversation going. This is not for the short term for us, and I really don't think it is for many people. So part 2 soon, but also many other subject matters like we've always been doing in our sessions. Totally, Yemi, get it.
And also, I was going to say, and also thanks to you, Kimberly, because I know you know this a lot all the time. It was you who actually opened the door for me to get into television all those years back. So thanks for that.
Just honestly, just on the back of that, Kimberly, like, just thank you for putting yourself in like a vulnerable position, because
of course
it is an uncomfortable situation, and to step forward and put this in place for who you are as an individual, and like it's just, I appreciate it. So
thank you. That
is amazing.
Means a lot. And before I choke up, I will say thank you. Honestly, it's been an emotional time for us all. So appreciate it. And you guys, thank you for watching. We will we'll be back probably next week. Next Friday is usually our sessions day, and you'll be able to catch up if you missed any of this on the Talented People website. So yes, stay in touch, follow us on all our socials, and you'll hear much more about this and loads of other things to do with the industry and jobs and all sorts. So thank you guys so much, and see you all really soon. Bye.